I was a senior at Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts, about to turn 22, and I was attending the last spring practice of my season last season as a rower on the school's varsity crew. It seems odd to me now that at that unconsciously youthful time in my life, I could have been so preternaturally conscious of time passing, but I was. My dorm mates in Haven House laughed at me during breakfast every morning of my senior year because I would invariably announce mournfully that this was the last January 21st or the last March 20th of my college life. It wasn't funny to me, of course. That sudden sad realization of loss that most adults have in midlife was mine every day at age 21. So on this morning in the spring of 1977, as I rode down the Connecticut River one last time, it occurred to me to take a picture in my mind. The cocks of my 8-oared shell had just given the command to weigh enough or cease rowing. In unison, the 8 of us stopped, our seats pushed to the back of their slides, our legs extended in front of us. For a second or two, I could hear the swoosh of our shell slicing through the water. We sat silently and drifted for a bit, our oars cradled in our laps. At that moment, as I sat in the bow seat, I said to myself, for the first and only time in my life, remember this, remember what you see and feel, because this is your last time in this boat, on this river, under this sky. It was then that I noticed the peculiarly immature greenness of the trees along the riverbank, and the layers of darkness in the water. Our coach, Miss Benson, she was always Miss Benson, was motoring in the launch nearby. She was in her 60s, by the way, I am not, and she had been a coach all her adult life. Following in our wake, Miss Benson sat hunched in her trademark trench coat, her hand in a death grip around the tiller. The sun, hard against the sailor blue sky, seemed to sharpen everything around me. I feathered my oar for a moment and watched the water drip quickly, then less quickly, off the blade. We sat there rocking in our slender shell for what seemed in my mind forever. It was important to me to take the picture just then, to remember always the sun on my face and the water lapping softly against the sides of the boat, and these crewmates, these friends whom I loved. I don't remember today how we finished in the races we rode that spring. I remember very little of any of the races I rode in college, but I remember the practices. I remember the joy of leaving my books neatly stacked on my desk for just a few hours. It was the release of those few hours on the water, all of us straining together against inertia, in the sun, or the rain, or the cold, that I remember best. It was not about competition, it was not about conditioning, and it certainly was never about a particular race. It was about this gift of grace, about the privilege of being here together at this particular time and place. I will be 40 years old this month, and I remember that grace now, even as I realized it then. Some athletes don't remember such a moment. A few still have never felt it, but most of us did. Most of us do. Through our great fortune, in our youth, our hearts were touched with fire. I love that.
That's awesome.
Hope you feel that too. Okay, let's turn the boat, please.